awesome. So, please pray with me. Holy God, in the words of my mouth, in the meditations of our hearts, in the actions of our lives, may your word be proclaimed. Amen. So I was at Camp Firkham on Thursday. It was an opportunity to gather with the United Church of Canada accreditation team. Every 3 years, the camps are accredited both by the BC Camping Association, that licenses camps in BC, and the United Church across the country does an accreditation process, mostly to look at programming. So I thought, and Sophia mentioned it last week, and she said it would be really cool if you could be there, both as the minister of the church that's entering into a relationship with that camp in a pretty formal way, I hope, and as the chair of Vancouver Burrard Presbytery. That's a role that I took on in June, and I will be the chair for 2 years, and it seemed to fit that the chair of Presbytery be part of that process. So I got to travel on the boat with Shannon, the director, the camp director, and with, forgetting John's last name, he's minister at Chemainus. He's been there since September of last year, and he's been on the national accreditation program for a number of years. Camping has been in his bones. So we had a great chat going over. The minute you get on the boat to go over to Gambier Island, it's like everything falls away. Anything that you were carrying is like, I talk about letting things go. Get on the boat, and you're heading to the island, and it's stunningly beautiful. We live in an incredible part of the world, and kids get to do that. That's part of the camping experience. We arrive, and Sophia greets us. It's lovely. We do this tour, and we begin to watch how things happen. And there's 86, 87, 100 kids on site from ages about 5 to about 12. That's about the age group. And there was a little 5-year-old who was there on his first 2.5 night scamper camper is what they called him. And he does live on Ross Road, and he had been sobbing all night long, wanting to come home. And Sophia said, I have a friend who's coming tomorrow who works really close to where you live. And so all that morning, waiting for me to arrive, and so we did have this little conversation about, he said, I miss my mom so much. I miss her so much, and except that now I'm really worried that if I leave, she'll be mad at me. So I'm afraid that she'll get mad at me. And he said, what I just want to do is go to bed so that tomorrow comes really quickly. And, okay, so I really understand, because Christmas is like that. You want Christmas Eve to be over really quickly, so you go to bed at like 4 in the afternoon. So you can get up in the morning, right? So this little guy wanted to go to bed really early, and I said, I have an idea. You can stay awake and just kind of wait for it to come, or you can actually join with your friends. How is it? And he said, well, it's okay. I just miss my mom. He's 5. Right? 2.5 day camp for camper campers. He ended up staying. And because he thought, well, that would be better than just sitting in my cabin by myself, because that would be really slow. And so they ended up doing stuff. And as it turned out, I checked in with Millen as we were all day. How's he doing? Fine. This is an extension of, I believe, of Lynn Valley United Church's ministry. I can't say it more humbly. I've always said, give a child a week at camp. Give a child or a youth a week at camp, and they will have more exposure to spiritual development. They'll have more exposure to God than they will in a year of Sunday school in most congregations. I believe that to be true. That's been my experience at Narromana Center. It's my experience with camp. It's my experience with my sons. It's an important ministry. Because at camp, unlike Sunday school, there isn't a moment when the wonder of God might present itself in what? Watching a bee pollinate a flower, or seeing the first rays of sunlight come through the crack in the wall and wonder about that, or the smoke that's in the air and wonder about forest fires and what they do. There isn't a moment when those God moments show up, and astute staff members evildoers will capture them. A child will be caught in the moment, they'll stop in their tracks, and they'll be caught in wonder. It's in that moment that you get to meet God. And an astute staff member will see that and use it. Can't do that in Sunday school. It's way different. So give a child a week of that. And Millen lives on Ross Road. One day, Millen might want to go to a place where he experienced really cool things at camp with Sophia and with Tom Jenner. Tom is doing really well. He's exhausted. He said, kids take a lot of energy. And he said, some more than others. Right? And it's a life-changing experience for Tom. And Marilyn was there. They spoke of you. The staff spoke of you and how you were with Cain.
Oh, yes.
Cain, a little ragamuffin who would not sit still anywhere. Every time you were up, he was somewhere else. And you said, here's the rule, I just got to be able to see. Right? Marilyn was there. And maybe one day, Cain, who lives on the North Shore, might want to reconnect with Marilyn or with Sophia or with Tom. And guess what? This place exists where that might be happening. And we got to be ready on Sunday, and we got to be ready on Friday night. We might need to be ready in any kind of other spiritual program that Sophia's running. This is a huge extension of our ministry. And as you heard, a little boy had to go home. Give a child a week at camp, unless, of course, you have to send him home. I watched Sophia wrestle with that decision. And I watched her talk to all of the staff and other members of the camping community about how that behavior affected somebody. I watched it, and I'm heartbroken because I was on the boat with the little guy and his sister, and they sat on one of the boat benches as they went back to Horseshoe Bay by themselves. Sophia and I will have a conversation. She wouldn't have known that, of course, but the accompanier on the staff spent more time talking to other people than those little kids who left camp. And I'm going, I'm so struggling with it in the same way that Sophia is struggling with it. Because I wonder if the mission of Christ's Church was served with those two little ones. I wonder, I don't know. I remember one time I was on staff at Naramata Center. I was the coordinator of a week that included the junior high week. The junior high week is when we gather grade 7 to grade 9s. Well, you know what grade 7 to grade 9 is like. Hello. Right? We know what that's like. So, at one night at 1:30 in the morning, I'm coordinating the whole week. There's other programs going on, but this is also the junior high week. So, I'm paying attention to a lot of things. At 1:30 one morning, I get a knock on the door by the program leaders of the junior high week. There's been a behavior that has breached non-negotiable behavior. This is behavior that would send them send them home. And it's involving liquor, and there's 4 young men here, I think grade 7. By the time I hear the story, there's 4 young men drunk and throwing up, and it's a mess. We got to do something because the staff is up in the community's up in arms, and these kids think the kids should go home, and there's just, okay. So I meet with the kids, and rather than seeing 4 grade 7 boys who are drunk and throwing up, I see 4 boys who are freaking out and scared and crying because they know and these are Naramata kids. These are Naramata family. You know, like when you've been to Naramata like many times, you know the rules. And these are good kids. Anyway, so they're supposed to go home. The rules say they're supposed to go home. And so I gather with them, and with one other leader. So there's 6 of us in a circle, and they tell me what's happening. And it turns out there's 1 bottle of beer between 4 of them. Somebody from the community snuck a bottle of beer in from the kids in the community. There's interface, right? So a bottle of beer made its way into their cabin, and 4 of them drank it, and the other community found out, and the story went like wildfire. You know, they're drunking, falling down, right? So grade 7s are drinking. It's non-negotiable behavior. This is not okay in junior high. So they know that. So I'm wrestling with, what do you do, right? So actually what I did was I gathered the junior high community, and I created a circle, and then I put another circle in the inside. It's like a fishbowl. I don't know if you know of a fishbowl experience. It's where you watch a conversation happen. You're on the outside and you watch a conversation. So the 4 boys and me and one of the leaders and an empty chair. We had that same conversation in front of the community. And the 4 boys told, and the ground rules had to be, if you've got something to say, you come to the chair and you speak your truth. There is nothing else but the truth spoken, including what these young men have to say. There's no other truth but what gets spoken here. That's the rule. So they told the story, one bottle, and the whole, you could just see this. The community just settled right down. Right? And what had to do with it, should the boys go home? I gave the decision to the community. Should they go home? Well, they didn't go home. They got forgiven. Well, a week later, I'm getting angry letters from parents saying, they should have been sent home. And right, so here it is, 2 stories of what do you do with non-negotiable behavior. I think of the 2 little kids yesterday and how I wish they were given a Nathan moment. A Nathan moment with David. That's what's going on here. David, you know, he's turning up as a scoundrel, isn't he? He's turning up to be this creep of, and he's the best king. This is the best Israel could do. We lift him up as the best. Really? This is the best. And so, but David, and we get this impression that David has no heart. There's no moral compass, right? Look what he's done with Bathsheba. Until Nathan comes up. And we think he has no heart. Until Nathan tells the story of the rich lamb guy and the poor lamb guy. He got one lamb, and the one lamb got slaughtered by the other guy. And David is incensed by this injustice. And Nathan, very quiet, he says, you are that man. You are that man. And how often is it true in our circles that we can see what somebody else does bad? Look at what they're doing over there, right? Can you believe how they're behaving? Can you believe, and we can always see the crummy behavior in someone else. And we're not really able to see the crummy behavior in ourselves unless somebody holds up that mirror. You are that man, David. That's what's going on in the story. And how I wish that I could take all of Thursday away and start again. And last week the same thing, how I wish I could change what happened. I can't. And what great learning. What I know, there's 2 things that I want us to remember in this idea. There's a leader in every chair, and the circle ring. So each one of us is responsible for the health of the circle. One thing I want you to remember, in the same way that David could not see his own behavior, let's not pretend that we aren't capable of being scoundrels, because I know that I am. The problem with being a scoundrel is sometimes you really don't know that about yourself, unless somebody takes courage and a huge risk to say, see the mirror, right? And you look at it. So, and then it takes that person. It takes both David and it takes Nathan, and the circle holds all of it. We can't forget that this is what it means to stand in leadership. We're going to be caught by our own blind side of this. We're going to be caught by our own things that we don't know about ourselves. I can't see this hand right behind me unless you tell me it's there. And we need our friends to tell us that's what's going on here. It's the only way I know that God works. I don't think, we call that restorative justice. You know, the 4 young men at Naramata were restored to community. Right? And they went on and had a great time. I think that's God's first choice. And it's really hard. It's really hard because it takes a lot of time. But I think that's God's first choice. And I think that's our choice when we gather in community. Yay. Amen.
Very good.
What are you laughing at?
Well done.
Please pray together. Let's pray together. Holy God, you remind us again and again that you are the one that sits in circle, that holds the circle. You are the one who actually is active and works through us. In story and song, you remind us that no one is outside the circle. Even the scoundrels. And that it takes the circle, it takes all of us to hold the scoundrels and the Nathans to be in safety and in love, that all might be restored to relationship. These are hard reminders, but it is the amazing grace that is you. We give you thanks for this word. May it be written on our hearts, that we might live into its truth in our daily lives and in the lives we lead with other people. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.